Okay, we're going to work a few problems here about when we have rates that require unit conversion. Sometimes we're going to change our units, and it's very important that we're consistent with our units. Remember, a rate is comparing two different units, and we always have to write the unit. So there's really no problems where units are more important than on a rate. So we need to be careful with it. So here's our first problem. It says water flows into a small pool at a rate of 15 liters per second. And so I recognize that that is a unit rate, and I'm going to in fact go ahead and write down an arrow diagram that 1 second will get us 15 liters of water. And we want to know how much flows into the pool in 10 minutes. And so what I recognize is we're going to still measure volume in liters, but I need to make the seconds into minutes. And so I think the first thing I need to do is find out how much flows in 1 minute. Now 1 minute is the same thing as 60 seconds. And so what I want to do, 1 times 60 is 60, so I need to do 15 times 60 to find out how many liters would flow in a minute. And what I get is that there's 900 liters every minute. So that is actually for 1 minute. In fact, let me go ahead and erase this 60 seconds. I've already multiplied times 60. When I see 60 seconds, I can go ahead and change that to 1 minute. 1 minute is 900 liters of water. And so if I want to know what happens in 10 minutes, I just multiply that 900 times 10, and I get that 9,000 liters flow into the pool in 10 minutes. The key here is just to be careful about units, and always write your units down. As long as you're always writing your units, you're being consistent, then these rate problems aren't so bad. Let's try another one that's actually got several parts that we can try on our own so we can practice some more with different rates. Okay, so I'm giving you a three-part problem. When we sell produce, it typically is sold at a rate. It's going to be a rate that compares the cost per the weight. And so that'd be typical if you go to Kroger or Walmart and you go in the produce section, that's what you're going to find out. And so we're selling grapes, and it costs 65 cents to buy 100 grams of grapes. And I don't know how much it would cost to buy an entire kilogram of grapes, how much for 1 and 32 hundredths of a kilogram of grapes, and then finally 651 grams of grapes. Pause the video, see how many of these you can answer. Can you answer 1, 2, or even all 3? And then you can unpause the video and take a look and see how I do it, and we'll see if we get the same thing. Okay, so I hope you've paused the video and tried that. The first question is going to be, what about 1 kilogram of grapes? And so, well, I recognize that I should go ahead and write my rate down, that 100 grams is 65 cents. Now a kilogram, we actually know a kilogram is actually 1,000 grams. And so how do we go from 100 grams to 1,000 grams? Well, rates are a multiplicative relationship, just like ratios. And so what I'm going to do with that is I'm simply going to say, well, 100 times 10 is 1,000. So I'm going to do 65 times 10. Excuse me, 650 cents. Or, of course, we would usually say that as $6.50. And notice we actually changed from grams to kilograms, and we changed from just doing cents to dollars and cents. But we see that answer. How much does a kilogram of grapes cost? It cost $6.50. Now that's a type of unit rate. It's a type of unit rate that says that 1 kilogram is $6.50. And now I want to know, what if it was 1.32 kilograms? And this is why knowing the unit rate, the rate per 1 kilogram, is so important. Because all we have to do is multiply now. We've gone from 1 kilograms to 1.32 kilograms. And so we would say, well, what is 1.32 times 650, right? 1 times 1.32 over here. So I go over here and do times 1.32. And when I do that, you could use a calculator for it. I don't have one handy, so I'm just going to multiply 1.32 times 6.5, which is just 132 times 65. We remember that from the 5th grade, right? And so I get 8,580. And I see that there's 1, 2, 3 decimal places. So I go 1, 2, 3, and that's where I put my decimal. And so the answer is 8.58, or we would say that as $8.58. Finally, the one that actually gives us the most challenge is to find out 651 grams of grapes. Well, I'm going to do a unit rate this time, but I'm not going to do a unit rate per kilogram. I'm going to do the unit rate per gram. What I want to know is this. I'm trying to go from 100 grams to 651. And really, there's no easy way to get from 100 to 651. 600 is not a factor of 651. And so how do I get there? Okay, well, this is where unit rates come in handy. Anytime you don't know how to find out how to go from one amount to another, the unit rate's important. And so I'm going to show you how I would write it. I would leave some space. If you got stuck on this one, if you don't think you have the right answer, then kind of copy out what I do. I want to show you something about it. And so I have 100 grams, and my goal is to get to 651 grams. You notice I left some space. And it's because I can't get there directly. And the best way to do this is say, if I don't know what 651 grams is, what if I found out what 1 gram was? And so that's what I could do. I recognize that 100 divided by 100 is 1, so I could do 65 divided by 100. Now 65 divided by 100, we've talked about this earlier on the fraction video. If I want to divide a smaller number by a larger, it's best just to write it as a fraction. Every gram is 65 hundredths of a cent. And so if I wanted to know what it would be to do 651 grams, then what I could do is I could actually take that 65 divided by 100, and I could multiply that times 651. And so the answer is going to be 65 divided by 100 times 651. Now, I'm not going to make you do that by hand. You can do that on a calculator. Of course, to put in 65 hundredths, we would actually put in the calculator 0.65. That's 65 hundredths. That's how much 1 gram costs, is 0.65 or 65 hundredths of a cent. And we do that times 651. And what we end up getting is 423.15. And I've talked a lot about paying attention to units. 423.15 what? And it's 423.15. Well, what's our unit? It's cents if we look above. Now, I don't like that answer, 423.15 cents. And so what we can do is we can make that into dollars. To make cents to dollars, we just move the decimal 2 places, and we get 4.2315. And so we have actually fractions of a cent. We should round that to the nearest cent. And we round it, we get that is $4.23 for 651 grams of grapes. And that may look funny to you that you're rounding money, but really every time you go to the store and there's a rate in a problem like this, they're really a lot of times they're rounding to the nearest cent. And so we should actually expect that when we go to the store. And so that is your answer to that last part. It's about $4.23 for 651 grams of grapes.